I just finished with Dizzy Gosnell and great time, great chat. Dizzy, for those of you who don't know, has been a VP at Bandit for 40 years, I think. Or wait a second, I think he started in 85, somewhere around 40 years. Very rare guy who's had two jobs in like 45 or 46 years, two jobs. And so just incredible, very talented. He's one of the guys who can take bits and piece them together better than almost anybody. Like send him a real problem situation where a rig won't fit into a building or whatever, and he'll have it figured out and re-engineered and drawn out in a few days. And we talked a lot about AI. He's very anti-AI, and you'll hear that on this episode. So I really hope you enjoy it and share it and like and subscribe. And thanks again for watching. Welcome to Geezers of Gear, episode number 252. Today's podcast is brought to you by Elation Professional. Elation offer the latest innovation in strobe effects, the Pulse series. This new series of powerful strobe and creative design effects includes multifunctional panel or bar lights that can function as a high-impact strobe, bright blinder, high-output wash light, or creative eye candy effect in one. The Pulse Panel and Pulse Panel FX incorporate zone-controllable RGB and cool white LEDs, while the Pulse Panel FX features endless 360-degree rotation for an extra layer of dynamism. Joining the Pulse Panel and Pulse Panel FX is the Pulse Bar. Available in 1 meter and half meter lengths, the Pulse Bar features the same RGB and cool white LEDs for a perfect color match and features the same effects engine and control capabilities as well. All Pulse series lights feature Elation's market-leading IP65 protection for use on stages, indoors, and out. Discover Elation's new Pulse series today at elationlighting.com. And today's podcast is also brought to you by Mainlight, a national dry hire rental provider specializing in supplying the latest lighting and stage equipment technology. Their extensive rental inventory includes moving lights, truss solutions, control consoles, LEDs, and an array of weather-resistant IP65 rated fixtures. Perfect for outdoor venues. Whether for theater productions, outdoor stadium events, or TV film broadcasts, Mainlight is the partner you trust with the gear you want. Committed to quality and reliability, Mainlight also provide a robust selection of used sales options to their clients. Each item is meticulously maintained, owned by Mainlight, and comes with a depot warranty, providing you with confidence in your purchase. Strategically located across the U.S., their 4 key locations include Teterboro, New Jersey, Wilmington, Delaware, Nashville, Tennessee, and Las Vegas, Nevada. Mainlight combines the vast resources of a national company with the attentive, personalized service of a local provider. Discover how Mainlight can equip your next event by visiting mainlight.com today or grab a direct quote through their online ordering platform. Welcome back. I'm here. So I'm up in Canada. It's a little bit cold. I'm in the mountains and it's not sunny today. It's kind of rainy and cold and miserable. It looks like it's even snowing up higher than my house up in the mountains. And so, yeah, it's a nice day to sit inside with a fire going and just get a lot of work done and not be distracted by the beauty of the outdoors and the availability of lots of cool things to do. So welcome. Yesterday, episode number 251 was a great one with Ola Melzig. If you haven't listened to it already, stop now. go back and listen to 251 and then come back here again. Today's going to be good as well. But Ola was fantastic. If you know Ola, he's a character. He's fun. He's interesting. But he did just come off of the most recent Eurovision Song Contest, of course, which is one of the biggest shows on earth. It's just a massive display of moving lights and LED screens and audio and stuff. Just all the latest, coolest technology at once. And so, yeah, we had a great discussion, went on about 2.5 hours. So go back and check it out, episode number 251. I'm not going to talk about AI today, so there you go. I'm saving you from the evil empire of AI. And so I'm hearing a deal is imminent with 4Wall, hearing that through lots of different sources. And I know they've been working on a deal for a little more than a year. You know, this is the way it goes. When you are a private equity owned company, typically there are these tiers of private equity. So there's these guys down here that may go from 50 million to 250 million. And then there's one that goes from 250 to 500 million. And then there's one that's really their sweet spot is 500 to 750 or to $1 billion. And so what typically happens is when you first get an investment from a private equity company, they specialize in smaller entities or whatever, wherever you're at that point. And then typically their play isn't to buy and keep these companies. Usually what they're going to want to do is buy the company, grow it, and then sell it to that next tier of private equity group. So if you're in the 100 to 250 range, they're going to want to sell you to the guys who are really good at 250 to 500. So they're going to want to 3 to 5x their money and then go to the next level, to the next tier. And so that's really all that's happening here. It's not that all of a sudden 4Wall is a lousy, toxic company or something. They're a great company. Companies at that size and companies who are private equity backed usually are very capital intensive, and they need new sources of capital, larger sources of capital that are more suited to the size of their business today than they are suited to the size of their business 5 years ago or whatever. So when Mike Cannon sold this company to what are they called, Genesis, back several years ago, you know, they were the perfect size. It was a right-sized match. Now there's probably larger needs and a larger private equity group wanting to buy the company, and the smaller private equity group wanting to get out and reinvest that capital into other smaller companies that they can then grow to the next level. So this is just how the system works. Anything more than that is just drama. You know, I've heard all kinds of different versions of why it's being sold, and none of that's true. It's really just going to the next level, and you'll probably see that as soon as they announce their new owners, nothing's going to change. It's probably good for the industry because I'm sure there's been a lot of things being held back because of this process that they're going through. And so it'll be good for the industry. It'll be good for the suppliers. It'll be good for their customers. It'll be good for their staff, who have all been basically in a holding pattern for a year. And so I think it's a good thing. I think you're probably going to see a lot of acquisitions that happen right after the deal is announced, because I think there's probably some acquisitions being held back as well. And so, yeah, no panic. This is a good thing. When large companies do deals like this, it's generally just to find better access or cheaper access to capital. It's got everything to do with money. And it's not that somebody's cashing out and taking millions of dollars off the table. So another thing, there's a lot of gear freeing up right now in Europe. And so if you are looking for gear, I would not suggest that you just go hunting for small companies in Europe that are selling gear, because it's probably not the safest or most comfortable thing for you to do if you're based in the US or you're based in Asia or wherever you are. We specialize, my company, and this is a very self-serving little announcement here, but GearSource specialize in cross-border global transactions where you're buying $1 million sound systems from Europe and you're in Canada, which is a deal we recently did. So, you know, come to us and just say, hey, we're looking for 100 X fixtures, whatever they are. do you have something available? And maybe you even have something in Europe. And don't be afraid because it's coming from Europe. We can help with the logistics. We can help with, certainly we handle the transaction as far as currency and taxes and all of those things. So we make it easy. And the only thing is it takes a little longer and costs a little more in freight. But generally, if you buy and sell right, you can take advantage of currency exchange rates or currency just fluctuations or things like that, timing. And, you can usually buy really well by buying from another country. And also from a supply and demand standpoint, there are, especially European manufacturers who sometimes you can buy stuff used a lot cheaper in Europe than you can in the US. And same with US manufacturers. A lot of times European companies will buy it cheaper in the US than they can buy it in Europe. And that's typically because of distribution agreements. So, for example, if I manufacture a product in Italy and it's 1,000 euro and I sell it into the US, I'm going to discount that 1,000 euro to a distributor. So let's say I sell it for 700 euro. That distributor needs to import it. They need to put it in stock. They need to market it. They need to do all kinds of things. So they eat up all of that margin and they need to go over that 1,000 euro price. So they're going to sell it for maybe, 1,200 euro or 1,300 euro, which would be $1,500 or whatever in the US to their dealers and still make the same margin or whatever. So, it's something that I could go into much more detail with if anybody wants to have a conversation. But the reality is that there are a lot of benefits to buying from other countries, and there are a lot of hazards involved in doing so. And we can certainly help you maneuver that. But the point wasn't to try and sell you something. The point was that we're seeing a lot more movement on used gear, not just in the United States. U.S. is very busy right now with a lot of summer tours and stuff, but there's a lot of stuff opening up, and certainly in Europe in a big way right now. So lots going on. And what else do I want to talk to you about? Yeah, so our podcast, please, you've been doing such a great job. People, every time I say this, I think people go, okay, I'll do it. Like and subscribe to our podcast. It really does help to grow the audience. And that doesn't make me more money because, believe it or not, I don't earn money from this podcast. Certainly we have sponsors, but that pays the bills and that helps us to market the podcast and grow the podcast. Maybe someday I'll make a buck or two, but don't count on me getting rich from doing Geezers of Gear. But by liking and subscribing, you're helping us grow the audience. You're helping us get better sponsors, more sponsors. You're helping us to provide more listeners for our guests. And it's just good for everyone. And so speaking of guests, we're always looking out for a good story. I love a good story. And Ola had a couple good ones yesterday. So again, be sure to go back and listen to 251. But if you have a great story, your life story, your career story, just a couple of stories about some tours that you did or whatever, and you'd like to share, just reach out to us, producer@geezersofgear.com. You can send an email, and that will go to Sarah, our producer. Sarah will then engage you in a email loop that will get you scheduled to record. And we actually have a couple of openings in July. So by the time you hear this, we're going to be in July. And we have a couple of openings that have come about, whether people have canceled because they're out on tour or whatever it is. But, so even we could probably even get you in the next few weeks if you want to jump on the podcast. And it doesn't have to be 2.5 hours like it was yesterday for Ola. It could be 1 hour. It could be 45 minutes. I don't care. If you've got a great story, let's talk about it. So today's guest on episode number 252 is Dizzy Gosnell. Dizzy has been on before and has a great story to tell, talking about great stories. Dizzy is a VP at Bandit Lites. I think he's VP of production there. He's been a part of the Bandit family since 1993. So quick math in my head, that's 31 years. That's a long time. And he first met Mike Strickland from Bandit, the CEO and founder of Bandit, 40 years ago when Michael was the production manager for Blackfoot and Dizzy was on the lighting crew with Meteorlites for Iron Maiden. And Meteorlites, I don't even think they've been around for a long time now. Dizzy began his lighting career in England in the late 70s, touring with dozens of bands, including Phil Collins, Iron Maiden, AC/DC, Paul Simon, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, lots of others. Dizzy has an incredible portfolio that you can now view online. We're going to talk about this, and Sarah is also going to share the link to this portfolio in the show notes because it actually is really, really interesting. And this includes drawings of some of the shows he's toured in the 80s that had no 3D drawings or renderings done at all. And so since that time, he's gone out and created drawings for them. We first had Dizzy on the podcast back in January 2020. Again, we had no idea what was about to hit us at that time, so we'll talk about that too. That was episode number 71. So please join me and welcome Dizzy Gosnell back to the podcast today. Hello, Dizzy.
Hi, Marcel.
Are you still a left coaster?
Yep, absolutely.
So it's still morning. So I can say good morning, Dizzy.
Yep, absolutely. It's only 10 o'clock. So I'm on what some people call specific time.
I'm at my place up in Canada, so I'm on mountain time right now. It's
Okay.
11:15 for me. But yeah, so I appreciate you coming back on and doing this. It's funny because I was looking back. I knew that we had recorded once before, but I look back at it was in January 2020, sort of, before shit hit the fan, I guess.
Yep.
And I was listening to it to see if there were any clues or hints or anything that we were about to go into this wacky moment, and there wasn't.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, to
We
hear yourself talking.
Wide-eyed and clueless, weren't we?
Yeah.
Down.
Just another year,
Yeah.
And but it's funny when you listen back to yourself talking in January 2020, and it's like nothing's coming, it's a regular time, regular year, everything's good. And and then God knows what we went through.
Shut everyone up, didn't it?
Oh, Jesus. Stupid. It was stupid. But, and I remember I had some fairly notorious, memorable talks with people where we talked about, I created this thing that I called Day 91. I said, this is going to be a 90-day problem. And on Day 91, what do you want to come out looking like? Like, you want to come out better. You want to learn some new skills or clean up your shop or whatever, just really dumb shit that in the end just made me look stupid because it became like day 391 or 691 or whatever it was, right? So yeah, it's crazy.
Then coming out was just being gay, wasn't it?
Still is. It's like
coming out of COVID.
Yeah, I mean, when's it going to go back to normal? But this is normal now. Like, this is just the new normal. It's because, it's funny. COVID created so many opportunities. Out of death and destruction came new life, and so in our industry, I think so many artists created these massive, or at least expanded these massive social media followings during COVID. And so they came out like they were shot out of a cannon when COVID ended because there was just this pent up demand, but also there was just a bigger demand based on the fact that they now had 10 million followers and stuff, right?
Yeah, and you see like Dave Matthews doing his Friday thing in his living room or something like that.
Right.
All those kind of little things, which I thought was cool. And it made it more one-to-one. It cut out all the middlemen from the artist to the fan.
Yeah, I agree.
All of the middlemen, record companies, promoters, booking agents. I mean, God bless them, but I mean, it just cut them out.
Yeah, I agree.
And there was no intermediaries, and people felt more connected. And I think, looking at the sort of Taylor Swift thing that we got now, which is a complete, absolute phenomenon.
Yeah,
I think that's a big part of that, as well as her savvy business management in her camp.
Yeah,
about
100%.
Sort of doing things and not sort of bowing down to anybody else's things. It's not radical. I mean, what she's doing, it's not radical. It's pretty normal. Like, okay, when Scooter wants to like take her to the cleaners for the publishing rights,
yeah,
I'll just do them again. Next.
Yeah, isn't that incredible?
And I love that. Yeah. I love that attitude. I mean, it's really clean and easy.
Yeah. I am the furthest thing from a Taylor Swift fan, but I'm certainly a fan of her business acumen. The fact
her business model is do it. That's how to do it.
it's, in my opinion, a fairly average talent, who has just created a massive product from that talent. And I'm not saying she's not talented. Obviously, there's some talent
Yep.
there, and
It's
somebody's
freezing.
writing some songs that are catchy and stuff. But it's the business behind it that has created
Yeah.
that phenomenon.
And the
Yeah,
mentality of
yeah,
doing it and doing it for the right reasons.
agreed. Yeah,
And also utilizing what is available now. I mean, there's a host of things and we can talk into it later, but I don't think Taylor Swift could be doing 3 nights or 8 nights total in Wembley
yeah,
with any degree of certainty that it's not going to rain there at Wembley in one of those shows.
yeah,
Ordinarily, a show designed like that 10 years ago would be cancelled
yeah,
because you could never put all the video on the floor and all the lights out way down the length of the stadium
yeah,
and
yeah.
everything else out there and the
It's all
sound and
different
everything.
now.
But no, if it just rains, I mean, I've seen like Taylor Swift singing in the rain and Rammstein just playing, crunching it in
Isn't that
Germany,
crazy? Yeah,
in bucketing rain in
I
Dusseldorf.
know.
It's like, yeah, we're just getting wet. So what?
Yeah,
Flames will still. But I love that attitude. It's just let's
yeah,
get it done. But in the old days, we'd have had to put bags on everything and just,
I know.
okay,
I
we
think that's
may
been
have to
one of
cancel.
it's been one of sort of the underspoken or under celebrated technology
Yep.
changes over the past 10 or 15 years
What,
is,
the IP
and
stuff?
yeah, I mean, and
Yep.
to be honest, giving them full credit, Elation was one of the very first pioneers of it too.
Yep.
Like certainly, I think SGM, as far as a larger company, they were the
Yeah.
first one to really come out with some IP rated fixtures. Elation said, "Hey, we're going full on into this. We're going deep." And everyone ridiculed them, saying, "You're making fixtures heavier and more expensive, and there's so many
Yeah.
screws to open them and stuff." But they were ahead of the game, and it was a smart move.
You look at the Metallicas, the Taylor Swifts, the Rammsteins, the AC/DCs, and all those big outdoor summer stadium shows, especially
Yeah,
in Europe, where it
yeah,
doesn't stop raining in summer in Europe. I mean, it
yeah,
thumps down. So,
yeah,
are you going to have a rain date, or are you going to design it? You're going to cover the whole stage and the runway.
yeah,
Well, how many more millions of dollars and trucks is that going to cost if you want to
yeah.
build a tent the length of Wembley Stadium just as a
Yeah,
runway,
it
or you shut
changes
the
the
roof?
entire economics of a
Yeah.
European stadium tour, right?
Yep.
The fact that now it's rain or shine, like unless there's lightning hitting the stadium or something. But
Yep.
yeah,
But
no,
that's radical and extreme. I mean, England is like it rains, and a lot of America too. It's the same
yeah,
kind of deal. And the IP rated stuff has really made it better. Obviously, we're never going to get IP rated desks, I don't think, in my lifetime. But you can tent them up and everything, and
yeah,
racks and everything. But it's the lights themselves, the business end.
yeah.
And it's been
No,
one of my things for, I don't know, probably the last 10 years is one of the best inventions for lighting has been the line array, PA.
why is that?
Because in the 80s, we used to have this wall of PA cabinets about 28 foot off the ground
Yeah,
on all sorts of metal shows that I was involved in, and others, Rainbow and all the other big metal, with the first generation of all-in-one cabinets
yeah,
and big walls of them, and they couldn't. No, there was no steering, so the higher you had it, you're just firing at the back wall if you had it too high.
yeah,
But it would completely mask anything that was going on 28 feet and above with
yeah,
this 12-foot wall of plywood. The prism, I mean, the prism system with Shoko was the first step into that. But now the line arrays, how small they are and how much they can
yeah,
cover, and you can just put them on a stick in the field, a 70
yeah.
foot tower
Just
on the field. Yeah.
completely new lines of sight, and we're probably also
Yep.
saving a lot of people's ears because like the stacked systems of the 80s and 90s and stuff, when you had a bigger venue you just turned them up louder.
Yep.
And so the poor people in the first 20 or 30 rows were just completely deafened, like just
Or
ugh.
the site restriction thing, you'd have delay towers halfway up the field.
Yeah,
Did that on some festivals and Doningtons and that kind of stuff with delay
yeah,
towers. Massive piles of more scaffolding in the mud
yeah,
with
yeah,
PAs stacked up, bass
yeah,
bins, middles, and horns stacked in a just horrible. This
yeah,
stuff now is the line array. I think is probably one of the biggest advances in the look of a show that we've had
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder
probably
when they
ever.
I wonder when they just start handing out AirPods at the at the door when you walk in and everybody
Well,
just
we done
pops in their
Bonnaroo when they had,
AirPods and
yeah, well,
you
Bonnaroo with the silent disco and stuff. They've had that silent disco tent for years.
really?
Yeah, it's
No,
been there. It's one of the smaller tents, but it's just called the
yeah.
silent disco for years, and it was basically just a closed system. You put headphones on,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
if you don't have the headphones on, all you hear is like punters squeaking in their Birkenstocks on the dance
That's
floor,
funny. That's
and
funny.
they're just like grooving with the overbite and everything,
Wow.
getting it all down. Yeah,
Huh.
so I mean, the silent disco stuff is it works. I've often wondered why you didn't just give, especially if you have either curfews or noise limits.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No, but I mean, going back to the whole COVID thing, like you were mentioning that it was cool what some of the artists were doing, and one of the ones that I used to follow because he put out so much content during that time was Tommy Shaw from Styx,
all
and
right,
he'd sit in his living room with his dog and an acoustic guitar, and he would just sing old Styx songs and stuff,
yep,
and it was really entertaining because I happen to think the guy's mega talented. Still at his age, he still sings those songs so well. And the other thing that was cool was the collaborations being done like over internet, where the drummer was in Germany and the
yeah,
bass player was in, Canada and the singer was
yeah.
wherever, and they'd record a song and then piece it all together and the video would show them each in their own place and stuff. I loved those collaborations as well. Some of them were really great.
Some of the ones were not actually like rock stars doing it, but some like orchestra type people,
Yeah.
even kids and junior and youth orchestras
Yeah.
doing an Iron Maiden song or a Rammstein song, like
Yeah.
12
Yeah.
or
That was cool
15 of
too.
them
Yeah.
in 12 or 15 different cities, all
Yeah.
by Zoom or Skype or
Yeah, I
FaceTime.
remember some of those
That was,
things where they had thousands of artists. Like,
yeah,
didn't you two do something where they had people in Africa and people all over the world
very
singing?
likely.
And yeah, I think so. But
There was a lot of novel stuff, I think, that came out and a different way of thinking, and the nimble people survived, I think.
yeah, well, and I think our industry is one where, if you make us sit down for too long, we're going to start dreaming up some pretty innovative things,
Yeah.
and I mean, you certainly have done a lot of that on your own, but I just saw so many cool things come out of COVID. And, if I look back at COVID, as terrible as it was, and as many people who died, and lots of people lost their homes and their businesses, and it's all terrible. But I
Yeah.
think it was a net positive in so many ways. I think COVID was a
Well,
net positive.
plus the fact is, it's been one of the very few things that was truly global. I mean, every single
Yeah.
country. I mean, world wars were not world wars all over the globe. They're in big parts
Yeah.
of it, World War Two, but World War Two didn't hit like Peru or
Yeah.
the land
Yeah.
mass of Australia or anything like that. So it wasn't global, but
Yeah.
this thing was.
Not only every country, but every class, like rich
Yeah,
people, poor people, famous people, nobodies,
yeah,
didn't matter who you were locked down in your house,
yeah.
and ordering food on DoorDash or whatever. It didn't care who you were.
I think
So,
it made, I mean, everybody from like 5-year-old kids who missed their friends at school for 6, 8 months or whatever, and they really wanted to go out and play and
yeah.
really wanted to go to school. I mean, that was a lot of parents I speak to, they'd never heard those words. They were on 100 ways to not go to school
Yeah.
today. But
Yeah.
after 5 and 6 months, I want to go to school. I'm
No
going to record
kidding.
that because it's,
Well, they
um,
just wanted normalcy, some level of
yeah,
normalcy back, right? Yeah.
but it
And
made,
probably the parents wanted them the hell out of the house
yeah,
too,
but it
Please go to school.
made everyone appreciate what we thought was boring before.
Yeah.
We craved normality.
Well, I craved LDI, go figure, like trade show and see all my friends again and stuff. Like it was just such a weird time, but yeah, I mean, again, I look at the positives that came out of it. I think there's a lot of net positive that came out of it. Certainly your friend and owner became much more famous and became a politician through the
Oh, Mr.
process.
Strickland, yeah,
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 yeah.
very much an unwilling politician, but it's just like, well, I mean, I'll have a go, and that was basically it. It was not
Yeah.
like, I'll do it. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll
I
have a
think
go.
I
I'm
can
just trying
help.
to
I
ring
think
read
I
it.
can help. Same
Yeah,
thing I did on a much smaller scale, but I did the same thing. I said, I think I can help here. I think I
yeah,
might know some people. I think I might be able to connect some dots and make some things happen.
yep. No,
So,
it was good on that. And simple things like, no, using Zoom now as just a standard thing. In the old
yeah.
days, we'd have had to fly to Cincinnati for a site meeting or fly
Yeah.
to this and wasted so much time and money for a half-hour
That's a
meeting.
huge positive.
Three
Huge
days
positive.
of flying out, the meeting that day, you may fly home that night, or you'd stay over again and fly back, for a one
Yeah.
hour site meeting in a field. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're better than
Yeah.
that now. And grandmas can talk to the kids now. Even grandma figured out how to
Yeah.
use Zoom.
Yeah.
So the connection was better, I think.
Yeah.
As nothing to do with
Completely.
rock and roll, just general connection
Well,
in the
and
family.
things other than Zoom happened too. Like, for example, one thing that happened during COVID was a lot of companies created competitors to Zoom or competitors to Slack
Yeah,
or these other connecting online platforms, remote
yeah,
platforms. And I use one, it's called Roam. And it's incredible. It's like it's been game changing for my company and for my staff and stuff. Just the way that it connects people and the way that it makes remote people feel like a real company and feel like you're
yep,
connected and you're together and stuff. Yeah, I mean, just a lot of great things. And I think as a whole, our industry is certainly we've fallen back into some of our really stupid pre-COVID ways, but
yeah,
in a lot of ways, we're so much better than we were before COVID. And I think that that's going to continue. I think COVID changed a lot of things for our industry, mostly for the better. And so, yeah, I don't look back at it and say it was
yeah.
all terrible. I look back at it and say it
No,
was terrible, but a lot of good came out of it.
and also other things, again, not rock and roll related, but things like video medicine became a standard thing.
Yeah.
Video doctors,
Yeah.
brilliant. I
Huge.
wish I'd had that when my kid was younger instead of having to get every the doctors because my kid
Yeah.
coughed.
I
So,
agree
we're
completely.
all going to the doctors, kids. Why? Because I can't leave you here on your own. So we're all going.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now
No,
you
that's a
can
big
just
one.
like
I never even thought of that, but that's true.
huge,
Yeah, that's true.
huge,
Yeah.
24/7. I had a thing where I slipped or my foot slipped on the edge of a curb, and I
Yeah.
felt the back of my calf just go snap like that. It just sort of went
Ouch.
down
Jesus.
and
That
it just
hurts.
swelled up. And about 2 days later, and about 9 o'clock at night, I signed up for one of the teledoc things. $15 to sign on, and I think it was like $25 for 20 minutes. And it was
Yeah.
an American doctor, but he was living in France. This was 9 o'clock no, 10 o'clock at night
That's
American
awesome.
time. He
That's
was in
awesome.
France and signed up because they said English speaking preferred, and when he was just happened to be there, and
Yeah.
like, well, didn't matter where he was at all.
Yeah.
The connection
Yeah.
went down near the end, and we hadn't quite wrapped up. He called me back just to see if there was anything. He didn't just leave it hanging.
That's
So I thought this
awesome.
is really
It was
cool,
a
for
better
one-on-one.
experience than going in, right?
Yep, yep,
Yeah. Well, think about payment. Like think about how payment has changed and
yeah,
how even billing and paying for utilities and all of those things, so many things that you used to have to do in person, but payments, like a lot of times, especially here in Canada, I don't even carry my wallet anymore. I just have my
right,
phone and you can pay with your phone absolutely everywhere here. I haven't
yeah,
found a single place you can't pay with your phone. I've found places you can't pay cash, but I
right.
haven't found any place you can't pay with your phone. And so it's like I barely carry my wallet when I'm up here in Canada. In the US, I still do just because I feel like somebody's going to break into my house and steal it if I don't have it in my pocket. So, but, uh, but yeah, I think there's a lot of really positive things that came out of COVID and we have to remember that stuff. But, like you said, the fact that everybody's on Zoom, like that was one of the things that was really weird for me early in COVID because I was already a remote company. I had 20 staff that had been remote for 7 years or something, right? And so I knew all of the remote stuff. And so I was training people on how to use Zoom, how to use Google Drive, how to
Yep,
use, different online platforms that, because like a lot of people pre COVID still had all of their files on servers in a building that they weren't allowed to go to,
Yep.
so they couldn't get to any of their files. And I'm like, you have servers? Like, what the hell are you doing? So just
Yeah,
funny.
and things like FedEx was shaken down for quite a bit as well. The delivery things, there was
Yeah.
limitations on pickups and that kind of stuff too. So if you
Yeah.
needed to get big drawings to someone, the only way to get a big drawing file across to someone was via Dropbox or better Google Drive,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love Google Drive. I think it's excellent. My son was teaching people during COVID, teaching clarinet students privately
That's
online,
awesome.
and he was uploading like all the teaching stuff, the papers and the notes and everything.
Yeah.
Here's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. Do some practicing and we can discuss it tomorrow. And it was
That's
all
great.
remote. It wasn't ideal as far as music goes, a bit of latency and
Yeah.
everything, but it was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
whole
The
lot better
latency
than
is a
nothing.
problem for music. Yeah. It's a problem. But, like similarly, my girlfriend's uh, daughter-in-law she's Hispanic, she's from Peru, and she teaches English to people who want to move to the US or who are moving or have already moved to
Yep.
the US or whatever. And she moved her entire teaching system online and has created a whole system of curriculum and filing and stuff all through Google. I think Google has something called Google Classroom now.
Yep,
And
they do. Yeah.
so her whole school is through that, and she has tons of teachers and tons of students. And she showed me her whole platform. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Like, why would you go to a
Yep.
school? And that was the other thing. Like, my son did homeschool because of racing, but so many people moved to homeschool and went, this is way better. Like, this is way better than sending my kid to crazy school every day and not
Yeah.
knowing what's going on there and stuff. And so I think that was another thing is
I think it
homeschooling.
polarized some people. I got friends who really thought the homeschool would be a good thing, and it
Yeah.
ended up being less controllable and less
Yeah.
advancing, and definitely the social aspect the kids missed.
Yeah, my son, it was a really good thing because my son is like the class clown, the person who's always interrupting the teacher, as you could only imagine knowing me. But he was the obnoxious gamer, funny kid in class and stuff. And so he was always in trouble. And so putting him in homeschool was actually a really good thing for the educators, but for his own education as well. And as far as the social thing, like, because he was racing at almost every weekend, he was always at racetracks.
Right.
He had
Yeah.
nothing but a social life. So,
Right. Yeah.
we didn't lack in that regard. So it actually worked out perfectly for him, but I understand what you're saying, how it could go the other way. So one of the neat things about you, and I remember this from our previous podcast, but I think it's something like over 45 years you've had two jobs,
Yep.
which blows my mind. Like, how many people can say that? My brother-in-law worked for the same oil company in Calgary, Canada here for 43 years for one
Right.
company, but not very many people, you know what I mean? Especially
Certainly not.
nowadays.
Certainly not ex-Prime Minister Liz Truss from England for 45 days.
you
Oh
know,
yeah.
nobody's lasting very long lately.
Nah. No.
So,
But no,
but no,
that's been it. I mean, there's been Meteorlites. It was 80, 79.
yeah,
Start working there, and now we're up to 24. So, yeah,
that's crazy.
45 years.
That is
And
crazy.
then the
That's
2
wild.
years before that, when I was on my own doing my own stuff,
Yeah.
clubs and pubs and bars, or 2 or 3 years before that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was actually employers. Yeah, that's been it.
Yeah. That is
I
wild. Two
just
companies.
just got my 30th. Last November was my 30th year with Bandit.
Huh. That's wild.
So
I love it.
yep.
I love it. And obviously, no desire to go anywhere at this point. I mean, who wants to start over?
Yeah. But
So,
I think I'm at a good place. I feel comfortable, and the business is in a good place now.
yeah.
I don't know. There's something I can't really put my finger on what it is now, but there seems to be more acceptance. There's a lot more stuff now where a lot of venues are providing, as far as we're concerned, and probably the sound companies too, where there's 3 or 4 trusses of stuff at a certain level of show,
Yeah.
where they've got 3 or 4 trusses of stuff, and it's decent stuff. It's not like a couple of Parkans and a couple of Lecos like it was 30 odd years ago.
Yeah.
But they've got good stuff. It may be different. It may be Elation today, maybe Martin tomorrow, maybe Ayrton the day after. But it's
Mm-hmm.
relatively comparable. You can put on a decent show if you've got your druthers as an LD.
Yeah.
And then just you carry your floor package, which makes a difference. And we've
Yeah.
been really, really capitalizing on the floor packages, making them swift, quick, friendly as far as touring labor goes, just to give some the bands a different look on the floor and filling in the hole because so many shows now are just looking the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Without
I know gear used to make all the difference on these shows. Like, oh, you know, we got to go to a high end house, or we got to go to a
right,
Fairlight house, or whatever. Everything is so damn good right now. You know, we're spoiled as an industry because everything is good. Even the off brand Asian companies or whatever, good. You know.
I think the accountants have driven that to a greater extent because I
Yeah.
mean it always used to be like, well, we want Vari-Lites, and we go, okay, well, we got IntelliBeams. So,
Yeah.
oh yeah, but the old no, the production would say, oh, we really want to have Vari-Lites, and the accountant would say, if any of the audience can tell the difference between a Vari-Lite and an IntelliBeam,
Yeah.
then fine, then we'll look at
Yeah.
it. But right now, they're just going, and this was obviously 25, 30 years ago when it was in its
Yeah. Yeah.
infancy,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and you'd have a dozen VLs or a dozen I-beams. But
Nobody knows the
the
difference.
accountants, I mean, I had a couple of conversations or chats with different ones and say, well, they want Vari-Lite. Well, be prepared for IntelliBeams because I'm telling production that if the punters can't tell the difference for what we're doing it with it at the time,
Yeah.
just a bit of wiggle stuff.
Yeah.
It's not an integral part of the show. It's more of the candy at the time.
Yeah.
But that mentality has kind of stuck. And like you say, there's a lot of good stuff. If you want a good
Yeah.
medium range LED wash or a good medium range hybrid beam lamp or an outdoor super mega spot which can throw 300 feet or something in the rain.
Well,
There is that stuff and two or three different options for each.
light or the B light or whatever, because
Yep.
you can have alternates now. Like they're
A
taking
lot of
what
the
you
time,
have.
they'll come out with alternates out of the box rather than
Yeah.
us asking them, is there any chance we could substitute
Yeah.
this one for that one? A
Yeah.
lot of the tours will actually say, I want this, this, or this. And
Yeah.
sometimes they'll accept a preference in 1, 2, 3, this one,
Yeah.
if not that. But other people, and I can think of a few good designers who are really savvy, they'll just say this, and all this. And there's differences in each lamp, minor differences in each lamp with
Yeah.
macros and just some of the little smaller features. But basically, they're
Yeah.
similar, very similar lamps.
Well, I've been seeing a lot more designers who, you know, once they've selected the vendor, they'll go to the vendor and say, okay, what do you actually have sitting here?
Yep.
You know, let's like go ahead and pick some fixtures based on what you actually have sitting here.
And
then you'll do them some favors back,
yeah,
right?
it's a smart way of doing it, and a lot more
course.
people since COVID have done that a lot
Yeah.
more. Because
and
there's a load of options too. I mean, well, a load of barriers. If we can get the stamps or those particular lamps, we could, but the manufacturer can't supply them until September.
Yeah.
So we can want all we want, but it's not going to happen.
The other thing, it allows like you and Strickland and your purchasing team and whatever, it allows you to manage your business and not to just have to go out and buy stuff on a whim every single time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, hey, we are partnered with this manufacturer. We have 1,000 of these in stock. Would this
Right.
work for you? You know? And I just think there's a bigger willingness now, it seems. Certainly the top artists, the Taylor Swifts of the world, are going to get whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
But everybody else is
they're
kind
mass,
of
and they're kind of they're forward planning because I mean Taylor Swift is not, oh, we're going out in 2 weeks. I mean that's planned
Yeah,
6,
of
9
course,
months,
yeah,
12 months
yeah.
ahead. So
Yeah.
there's a massive amount of planning, forward planning you can do on that, whether it's
yeah,
budgetary for the vendor or whether it's manufacturing for one of the lighting manufacturers to say, well, we're not geared up for that yet, but yeah, we can get 350 by next February. Easy.
yeah, yeah,
And that's fine. If it's like next Tuesday, it's like, yeah, well, that's not going to happen.
yeah. How
We have
involved do you get on new gear now? Like, do you actually
Not a whole
try
lot.
to see a lot of the stuff? Like, do people come and show you new stuff, or you don't really care too much anymore?
I'll see it online, or well, either as the demo online or or a show with those particular items in it. If it's not the
Right.
show we're doing, then someone else's that's got that light on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, mechanically, and then I mean Jake Tickle is the main guy who's in Nashville. Um, I wouldn't say he's the gatekeeper, but he's the one who's got his most finger on the pulse for all the new fixtures. Because there are
Yeah.
so, well, there's so many coming out every week
Of
now.
course.
It's
Yeah.
impossible
Of course.
to keep up.
Yeah.
I'll go, oh, what about this? Like, oh no, there's an XB one of those now. There's really? God, we only got the Mark One out like 3 months ago.
Isn't
Well
that
they got the
funny?
XB now, so we're
Yeah.
not going to look at those. So, and it is very much, it's still a bit of Las Vegas gambling on which lamp you're going to buy 150 of at one time or 300
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
because you don't know if it's not going to be in favor for whatever
It's totally
reason
true. Yeah,
in
it's totally
six
true.
months' time, and the ones you just bought haven't been paid off for yet.
Yeah.
But
No,
this new
you might think something is the most beautiful product ever,
yep,
and if nobody specs it or nobody accepts it as an alternate, you end up screwed. But
and to a certain
yeah.
extent, it doesn't really matter what we think as the
Yeah.
vendor. It doesn't really matter because the production's coming to us in the main. They'll say, yeah, this is all right, or that's all right. But no, I've had bad problems with that lamp,
Yeah.
version C.
Yeah.
So I'd rather, we've got hundreds of them, yeah. And it could be just that he had bad experience on the tour, or he didn't like the lamp or what it can do,
Right. Yeah, that makes
features
sense.
or lack of.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
we try and stay alert, but I mean, it used to be that I used to be in the old days when it was Parkans, Lecos, I-beams, color faders, and Vari-Lite, who are their own thing anyway. So nothing we could do about that. That was basically us. The trendy new thing would be a new color of gel from Lee or Roscoe. And
yeah,
I
it was
used to,
so much
I
easier.
used to worry about the sound guys because they had all their stuff, new mics, new amps, new cabinets. Oh, this is a full range cabinet. Oh, glad I'm not in the sound business.
Yeah.
But lighting
Yeah.
is just
Fun. Well,
crazy.
sound is still pretty stupid. I with
Yeah,
sound is like, and then they'll spec like it can't be the KSI system. It has to be the KSL,
right.
or the KSL2. There's a new KSL2. It's even
Yeah.
better, and it's like that's a $2 million purchase or whatever. It's not
Got
like
video
you're going
walls
out
with
and buying 100 moving lights.
the
So
video walls with half a micron resolution or something.
no, crazy, crazy. Yeah, Roe has cleaned up on that. That's for
Yeah,
sure. Roe keeps, I mean, their product is amazing, but every time they make it a little more amazing, somebody's got to go spend $1 million on another screen, and it's incredible. I mean, it's obviously it's paying because somebody's buying the stuff and somebody's renting the stuff and whatever.
yeah.
So yeah, I think it's so funny when people come from outside our industry and look inside our industry at financials and stuff, and they go, "What the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, what are you
Well,
thinking?"
even down to the actual basics of a load in, a show, and a load out. They don't
Right?
understand. I mean, the average civilian doesn't understand that. No, this stuff comes down and goes in those white boxes out in the parking lot tonight, and
Yeah.
then it drives to Omaha and does the same thing at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. They don't
Yeah.
understand that. And to this day, with all the communication and all the MTV behind the scenes and the access, like behind the scenes stuff, and
Yeah.
people still don't really understand our side of the business, and I like
Yeah.
that. I
It's
think
true.
it's great that they
Yeah,
don't
it is.
really know
Until you're
how it's.
dealing with bankers and stuff. When you're doing
Yeah,
banker,
yeah,
you are nuts. We're not going to do that. And yeah, I mean, they just don't get it. You got to try and explain it, and they don't get it. But tell
no,
me about this Billy Strings tour, because I read some stuff about it, and like these pods are pretty incredible, and certainly could have been made more easily, but they wouldn't have been perfect. And I read about the sort of specs and goals and stuff you were trying to accomplish with the pods, and
yeah.
and uh, and I think
Well,
Tide in a Big
that
Rush and stuff.
Genesis started off with Roger Gant, the light designer, and Billy Strings in Europe last year on a
Yeah,
bus, just pencil and a legal pad, and it'd be cool if we had this kind of look and this kind of look, and then Matt Larrivee from Luz Studios up in Canada
yeah,
was in on the mix on that stuff too, way before we got involved, before they even put it out for a quoting spec. And then we got the spec to look at, and Matt Matt Larrivee from Lewis said, "No, what do you think about the sizes of the pods? Because they were originally spec to be around about between 7 and 8 foot 6 diameter."
Yeah.
So, well, to my mind, there's a couple of things that 8 foot. Well, first off, if we don't want to have that many or any joins in the pod, because you get at least 4 inches of dead space where you can't hang a lamp every time you
Yeah.
join the sections together. And which on a small pod that's a lot of real estate. That precludes you from getting even
Right.
spacing of the lamps,
Right.
which
Yeah.
kind of blows the whole gag because they wanted it even spacing. So that gives you a lot of problems. And then just shipping of it, trucking it. I said, how about if we shoot for around about 7 foot 6 outside diameter from the pod and make it all one unit? And so just about all the lamps can travel in it in the truck. The ones that hung on the outside, they got some Geminis just hung on the outside. They come off every day and go in a rack. But
Yeah.
everything else stays inside in the truck. It just goes on the Tyler wheels, but a curved version of the Tyler legs that the
Oh,
straight
okay.
Tyler has.
Yeah.
So we got Tyler involved, and this was all very quick because this was around about middle of December, and it started going into rehearsals end of January, I think it was. And
Tough
then
time to get stuff built too, right
yeah, and
before
then with
Christmas. And
LDI just coming back from Christmas, so people were just surfacing back from LDI, the Christmas LDI. Thank you, Formula One. So
exactly.
everyone
Yeah.
just shuts down. So with the LDI at that planning stage, and then Christmas slash New Year, that's basically 10, 12 days over Christmas
Gone.
shot down,
Yeah.
either for talking or actual production. So it was kind of, I mean, it wasn't a massive amount of stuff. It was 5 pods, but to get them right and there was no R&D time. It was just like they had to be done right first.
To jump right to the front of the queue, right? And they have to be willing to let you do that, right? Especially
Yeah,
with LDI, like you said, now they've got all these new orders and everybody wants their and yeah.
yeah. They're all going back to Tyler saying, "You told me we were top of the list, and now we're not because of Bandit."
Yeah.
Or you got another thing going on. Maybe not necessarily naming us by
Right.
name,
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah. So those pods, they wanted a certain look to the whole thing, and there was not much deviation from how they wanted it to look, with a sort of tiered look with the center lamp down the middle. They also wanted two rows of TMB LED, like rope light. I can't remember what it was called now. I can't remember what the name was. Sorry,
Yeah.
TMB. But so there was a small inner ring and then an outer ring underneath the bottom cord of the truss. So that had to stay on too in the truck. So that precluded us from forklifting underneath the truss to lift up the pods, fork extenders, because we had this LED rope light on it. So
Right.
there was
That
a
would
lot
just
of
get smashed.
weird little things we had to do. We wanted to make it so we didn't have to strip the whole thing because it would have been another one or two guys on the crew to
Yeah.
do. So it just had to be fast and then be able to be stacked. So I don't think they're stacking them on tour right now. They've actually built a loft, so they just wheel the pods on the deck and they built a loft so that the rest of the stuff, straight truss and stuff, goes up above it, wheels up in
Oh,
the
okay.
truck.
Yeah.
And that works out really well for them. They've been getting ins and outs done pretty quick. But yeah, they were interesting, but they're good fixtures, and it's just one big solid pod, round pod, hollow.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the middle. It's just the outer frame of
They
truss.
look really cool. I looked at the
Yeah,
pictures and definitely they look really cool. It's funny because I don't really know much about Billy Strings. Like, somebody sent me a song once or something, and I went and listened to the album a few times on Apple Music, and I was like, "This is really cool."
yeah.
Uh, but it's technically, isn't it like bluegrass or something?
Bluegrass, but I mean, he can play pretty much anything. I've seen video clips. There was one of him playing with String Cheese Incident, and he was singing Paranoid.
Jeez,
And he was playing
what?
electric guitar and singing, and it sounded as good as Ozzy when he was 20.
That's
And
crazy.
he even looked like Ozzy when he was 22. So, I mean, I
Yeah,
think it was a clip from a year or two ago, but Yeah, he
That's
just got in
crazy.
the Strings incident, and they played Paranoid. And if you shut your eyes, you wouldn't really know the difference. So
I'm gonna have to go look that one up.
he's a
Yeah, that's
guitar
good.
mensch, that boy. I mean, he's become a guitarist, and he jams with a lot of people all across all strokes of music,
Yeah.
country and
Well,
bluegrass and rock and metal. And
yeah, he seems to have really created a real sort of aura over himself,
yep,
and it's very cool. But I also read about I think you had a pretty solid relationship or have a solid relationship with the production manager. Is it Charlie Bryson?
Charlie. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we hadn't worked before at
No.
all. So no,
Hmm.
this is the first time we worked. He's yeah, it's just been really comfortable
Smooth.
and solid. He's super approachable, really mellow, nice
Yeah.
guy, good at what he does,
Yeah.
um, and just
That's cool.
gets stuff done in a low drama way.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's good fun. He's good to chat to. We haven't met yet. Still, I mean, I'm going to their comes on the
Wow.
left coast, so it's all
This is
been
another
email,
weird
phone.
thing. This is
Yeah.
another weird thing post COVID, right? Like you can do these deals and manage the entire relationship without ever having met.
Well, I mean, all the stuff I was doing with Bonnaroo for 16, 17 years, and Hangout and Firefly and all the other festivals we were working with Lambda. I
Yeah.
never went to any of the festivals. I mean, I've designed dozens,
Wild.
and
That's
I only met
wild.
Haddon Hipsley twice.
Dizzy,
So,
I have staff who have worked for me for 5, 6 years that I've never met.
yeah, I can
Actually,
believe.
including our producer, Sarah, who we've been
Yeah,
together for 3 years, I think, and we've never met. It's
yeah,
crazy. I feel like I know everything about her, but we've never met. So it's the new world that we live in now.
yeah. No, no, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Going back to Billy though, he's really good. I mean, if him and his four bandmates can do the same arena 3 nights, yeah,
Wow.
that's common.
It's that big, huh?
Well, it's yeah. I mean, he's doing Asheville. I think he's is it 2 nights. 2 nights in Worcester coming up. Yeah, two in Bridgeport, two in Philly,
That's
two at the
impressive. And these
Greek
are
in
arenas?
Berkeley. Yeah, two at the Greek in Berkeley
Jesus.
and two at the Forum, the Kia Forum in LA.
That's wild. He's
So yeah,
bigger
it's
than
not
I
bad
knew.
for. And this is his first big step up tour. He'd done some mainly amphitheaters last year, and arenas maybe one, sometimes two, but
Yeah.
it's gotten bigger
I'm gonna have to
this
pay
year.
more attention, I guess. And his fan base, are they young?
They're kind of all over the map, really. I don't. It's
Yeah.
not like Ghost where there's a lot of teenagers or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's all over the map. It's very similar to a lot of the vibe of kind of String Cheese, Widespread Panic, Warren
Yeah.
Haynes, that kind of
Huh.
stuff,
Yeah.
as well as
Interesting.
younger kids, and so it's different.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm gonna research some videos and stuff and pay a little bit more attention because I had no idea he was that big. Um,
Roger does a nice job lighting it too, and he comes from a lot of jam band stuff, but he's been with
yeah.
Billy for quite a while now,
Yeah.
and he does a nice job of operating and just getting the vibe right. And for me, lighting bluegrass, I don't know where I'd start or stop, but
Is it
it's
is it
difficult.
pretty much like busking or is he
No, it's programmed because there's video behind it, so it
yeah.
has to sort of coordinate with the video. But there's a lot of yeah, like 10-minute songs, but it's so there's a lot of stuff, but there's movement going on. Not
Yeah.
always like big dramatic beam moves and stuff,
Yeah.
but just maybe chases with lamps going off around the pods, just in a circle, and that kind
Yeah.
of movement, not a big massive sweeps. Although it
Yeah.
does go to that when it needs it, but yeah, it's not boring, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'd just be kind of tempted just to stick a scene up and wait till the chorus and
Yeah.
change it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Roger does a really great job of just keeping it
I'm gonna check it out.
ticking
I'm
along,
gonna check it
keeps the
out.
pot boiling.
Yeah. So tell me about V1.
Oh, venue one?
Yeah. I hadn't even heard about this. I know like right now, rehearsal space is such a big thing, and it's a huge problem, obviously, in our industry. Like
Yeah.
you can't get any. And, so more and more rehearsal space is opening up, which is a great thing.
Well, that building that was me and Strickland and Mike Golden designed that place because there was a need, and every other buildings we were looking at to move into from the previous place, they were not the right shape for the building for us. It was in the wrong place. Truck access was a pig. There's something wrong
Yeah.
with it, or it's too expensive.
Yeah.
So we just said, screw it. Why don't we just build our own? It's only a square box with lot of fresh air inside it, and no, we'll build offices at one end. So I mean, I've got all the drawings for the stuff I did for the engineering. We gave it to a building engineer and said, can you build to this? And said, yeah. So we actually built that place, which has got it actually looks like a small theatre from the outside because it's got 20-foot roof in the main part of it, and then it
Yeah.
lifts up just like you would have in
Oh,
in the back
yeah.
end of the. But I mean God, I think it was 95 we opened that place.
I didn't even know this. I don't know
Yep.
why, but
And it was we built it back then because rehearsal space was tight back then, and we built that place right then for the exact same reason that lots of people want to come in. Then we had less gear, a lot less acts to deal with. So we stored the gear and then built the rig in that shop.
Right.
And then we moved out of that as far as production and storage goes to the current, what we call the International Building, because it's on the International Boulevard. So it's known as International. And that's a 130,000 square foot building, like 20 loading docks. And that's where everything gets done now.
Yeah.
So we emptied out any storage and stuff, and that building just does rehearsals. But that's been standing there and doing rehearsals we haven't changed the building
I didn't even know this. Yeah.
since
I didn't even know that.
95.
Huh. Yep. That's wild. So, and I'm guessing it's booked solid these days, right? Or fairly busy?
Not solid. We build it. We give it away. We do it for free. So we don't charge the bands. As long as they're going to be using us for the tour.
It's just a service you provide. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And it's always
really
been like that from day one.
That's an expensive
it's never our
perk.
intention to. Yeah. Well, it's worked out well. We've had loads of stuff in there.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I don't know why I didn't know it existed, but when I started researching some notes and stuff, I went, what's this V1 thing? I never heard of this. But yeah. So, one of the big things I really want to talk about, and I'm actually going to do a screen share, which I don't do very often on the podcast, but I want to talk about your drawings are legendary. And really? I remember last time I had you on the podcast, you sent me some Iron Maiden drawings right after it. And I was blown away because, I grew up an Iron Maiden fan. They got big right around the time that I got into heavy metal or rock music in my mid-teens or whatever. So, you sent me some of these early drawings of
the renderings from the...
Yeah. And it just blew me away. And so, I mean, for me, like, why did you start doing that? What was the motivation behind that, or the need?
Well, it really kicked off with COVID because there was not a lot of stuff. We weren't allowed to go out at nights. Even if you could go out at nights and no one was open, all the bars and restaurants were closed. Just boredom. I don't have wife, girlfriend. My son, sound like a country song now. My son had left me. My dog died. But no, my son was living in another house about 10 miles down the road because he was at college.
Yeah.
So I was just on my own. So I just thought, you know what? If only really for me, I call it my digital tombstone, really. Only for me, just to get back to what those rigs looked like. Because back then, photography was not anything to speak of, not like we have now. We've got real and a lot of times I did whole tours where we never took a photograph of the whole rig ever.
So this is like sort of the only memorialization of the
basically
of the whole show. That's wild.
Yep, exactly. I thought, these are kind of interesting, and they broke the mold. And that particular one you got the screenshot of there, the AC/DC rig in '83. That was when at Meteorlites we built the first Thomas pre-rig truss with James Thomas, obviously.
Yeah,
That was the first tour that the Thomas pre-rig truss was on.
that is incredible.
So I thought, it's kind of interesting stuff. And yeah, we got extra bright lights with dies and gobo shaking and all this kind of stuff. But when it was just park hands and lots of them, a lot of aircrafts,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
four guys going up focusing for an hour in the afternoon, and
yeah. You know what's wild though is like I saw this show. You know what I mean? I
that,
remember this rig. I was a punter. You know, I
yep,
saw it,
it was
and
1983. That one was.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's incredible. These are what are you using to create these drawings?
That was AutoCAD
AutoCAD.
and AccuRender NXT for the rendering.
It's
I
just
just wanted to.
beautiful.
I basically wanted to leave it just at the lights, not bother with
Yeah,
the stage set or anything like that, the PA, because
yeah,
it's not really. I mean, some of the stages, some I can't remember what the exact dimensions were of the sets and
yeah,
everything. So I just wanted to leave it at the lighting systems because that's what I do, and just
yeah,
how we hung it, and then with some pictures at the footnote of what went on. But now,
yeah. The
so
equipment list.
basically, it was like a hobby just to sort of tie the ends, and some of the Iron Maiden rigs too on 85, no 84/85,
Yeah,
the World Sl- that
yeah,
that was one where we toured a grid, and I think someone may come up and say, "No, Diz, you're wrong," but Iron Maiden was one of the first on a previous tour, 1983, the Peace of Mind tour. We
yeah.
toured a small grid there, and then we were one of the first people to tour a grid, a mother
Huh.
grid.
That is
Say points
crazy.
we could get. Those points were all on this particular one, the World Slavery Tour for Power Slave. All
Yeah,
those triangles were moving during the show,
yeah.
and they were very tight. There was probably 6 to 9 inches trusses,
Yeah. Well, and
so they're very tight when they're
I
moving.
think the one before this had lifts. Yeah, there you go.
Yep, that
Yes.
was. Yeah, we could fly it on manual chain blocks if this is because we didn't have enough money, or Maiden didn't have enough money for chain motors at the time, and
Right,
we just had the
right.
Felco chain block. So if we flew it, and we did it 50% of the halls we played at, we
Yeah.
just like zung, 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 the manual chain
Yeah.
blocks.
Oh, and these are truss spots. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that was the
wild.
American version of the system that started around about November '84 after we did about 4 or 5 months around Europe.
Yeah.
We
And so for
expanded
all
it.
you young kids, these things here that you're looking at on the screen are park hands, and
Yep.
there are no moving lights in this rig. So,
Right.
yeah, it's pretty wild.
No, the whole
It's,
basically because there were no moving lights, you just said, "Oh, I'll move the trusses to move the lights,"
yeah, exactly.
and yeah, all those lamps were focused. That truss was a special truss. It was 30
Okay.
inches wide, the same width as pre-rig, and the same height as A-type, the 20.5 inch truss.
Right.
All with short nose cans in it on a gimbal frame. So it was like a frame. It could gimbal any way on a double yoke. So it didn't
Interesting.
restrict any movement on it. If you can see some of the close-ups of it, how the lamps um, moved. But we focused it once in Brixton, and we did tech rehearsals there. And once Dave Lights, the LD, was happy with the focus, we just went round after dinner one time when everyone else was at dinner. We lowered the rig down,
Yeah.
and we very gently we got 2 wrenches and we super locked both of the Binks nuts super tight. So we effectively welded
So
the
they stayed
lamps into
focused.
position.
Yeah.
Yep, for the whole tour. For the whole 18
So
months, we only focused the rig once.
really, you never
Yep.
had to focus. Wow, that
Nope.
saved a lot of time
Yep. And
and
a
people
lot of
hanging.
amusement too. I mean, Dickie Bell, the production manager, I remember in some venues, the steward would come up to us and said, "So how many lamps you guys are going to want to focus this afternoon then?
Yeah.
Think we should do the focus?" I don't think we're really in the mood to focus today. Yeah, yeah, just forget about it. You've
Yeah.
got to focus the lamps, man. No. Sometimes we just do that. We just don't bother focusing it. Screw it.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
and the steward would walk away going, "What? Yeah,
It was like you didn't like this new rig in what year was it? 1986. You didn't like the 86 rig that we're looking at
somewhere in
right now.
time." That
Yes.
was a good rig. It was that one. We did a test version of that, if you like, from the previous tour. I think it was somewhere in Cornwall, St Ives, I think maybe we
Yeah.
did with Maiden, and we couldn't get anything close to the full rig up. There wasn't enough ceiling height,
Oh.
so we hung the trusses in very similar configuration to that particular rig, the Somewhere in Time rig.
Okay.
And Dave Light said, "Ooh, that's kind of cool. I like that." So I'm going to
Yeah.
keep that in my back pocket, and that's kind of how that rig worked out on the following tour after the
Uh,
Power Slave tour.
so for people who are listening and not watching this on YouTube or on Spotify, obviously we're looking at these drawings from Dizzy's portfolio, but Sarah is going to include the link to this
Yeah,
website in the show notes, and so you'll be able to go and look at it yourself. And Dizzy even says right on his page somewhere, I think it's at the bottom here, all renderings done by me, Diz, and by all means download them if you like, but please credit me as the author. And
yep.
so, I mean, there's some really cool stuff on here. Like there's some stuff that, it's almost frame worthy where you'd frame it and hang it on your wall with an Iron Maiden logo below it or something. Uh, just really, really cool stuff. I love the
I made
drawings that you've
those.
been doing.
I made those Maiden and AC/DC logos in 3D as well. I made them as full three. They weren't
Oh,
copied from
that's
anyone.
crazy. That's wild.
Because that way I
Yeah.
could color them and give them shading. You can see shadows in them, and the bell
Yeah.
too. That was I was really proud of the bell.
The bell's
That took
beautiful.
about a day. Yeah, it's
Really.
pretty much bang on accurate too.
So this is probably hobby sort of stuff for you. Like this
Oh
is just a
yeah,
passion for you, right?
yeah, and also keep your chops up with 3D stuff as well, and just
Yeah.
push yourself because
Yeah.
it's not just like bolting truss together. All of that stuff was created from scratch. I mean, there was no off the
Yeah.
shelf cans or off the shelf truss
It's
in the
wild
3D.
when you see how young Brian Johnson is in this
Yeah,
picture. It's
and
crazy.
young Angus is as well. But yeah, it's
Yeah, Angus as well. Yeah, seeing the pictures
jump.
of them now is not so young.
No, but then I think to myself, well, yeah, if you before you shout, Diz, start looking in the mirror yourself, man, because
Yeah, it's true.
you're
Huh?
no teenager anymore.
So while we're on this site, the other thing I want to look at is this stuff where you're going into all these
Oh,
shipping containers. Again,
yeah.
another really cool
Again, that's
just
just
bunch
more
of
wacky, weird
concepts.
shit. That's just like, yeah.
Did
I've
any of
always
this
been
ever turn
impressed
into
with.
anything?
No, not manifested in reality. Not that
No.
I've seen from my end. I mean, lots of that kind of stuff exists out in the world, but nothing that I've doodled up has come correct.
I mean, I've seen other people obviously work with container housing,
Yeah,
some of the whatever they call them, tiny houses or whatever with made out of
yeah,
containers. Gumper from what the heck is his company called? AG,
yeah.
with the mega structures and stuff. Gumper did some hospitals during COVID. He was creating mobile hospitals out of shipping containers
All
for a
right.
little while.
Yep.
But
Now some of these were drawings I did 20, 25 years ago, and then about 10, 15 years ago. Again, it was nighttime projects. If when my son was small and me and his Thomas was living with me at the weekends and stuff,
yeah,
I couldn't go out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, or even Monday nights, because he was with me all the time, and he was
yeah,
only 6 years old, and he was in bed. So
yeah.
I'd be sitting there just going, okay, what do I do? There's nothing on TV. All right, so I'll just sit at the kitchen table with my laptop
Yeah,
then on this, just doodle this stuff up at night.
but the concept for housing, was that based on a need for less expensive housing or to
Yep.
get rid of containers? What was it? What was the
Well,
motivator?
originally, I mean, containers are cheap.
Yeah,
They're available. There's about three, I think, major manufacturers in China that just crank them out like nothing.
yeah.
And a lot of times they end up being one way. I mean, they come from China to here, and then they sit here on the West Coast. There's a lot of empty ones around, but
Well, especially
it's just
pre-COVID, there were a ton of them.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. and it's an interesting unit to me, either a 40-footer or 20-footer. I don't bother with the 53s or anything like that, but yeah, there's some ones I've built in-ground pool where it was an open container for things like bulk goods like gravel and stuff, and just
Yeah,
you'd line the open top container and make a pool out of it, and underneath the low end you'd have all the filtration and pumps and stuff
that's
in the
crazy.
unit. So, but I just like the simplicity. I've been big into prefab housing. I'm a huge prefab housing proponent.
Yeah.
Um, and building
Well,
in steel, especially living around here too, with the fires we get. Building in steel is
yeah.
another plus, and
Well, and
earthquakes too.
is there's some aspect of this where I think like shipping containers can only be used so many times before they fall out of like sort of engineering spec or whatever,
I'm not
because
sure.
of
I
how
haven't heard
brutal it
that.
is.
I'm not sure how long what their sort of seaworthy life is,
Right.
but I mean the just the strength of them is,
Yeah.
as I mean, when you have them 8 high on the deck, either above or below deck of a container ship, 8 high on the high seas in the Pacific in a storm, and they're still working.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
The ones
puts
at the
any
bottom
form
are
of,
taking a serious beating.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think the 20-footers can have, I think it's £20,000 per container in a 20-footer. So if
Jeez.
you've got seven £20,000 on top of the bottom one, so they're
Crazy.
built pretty well, and they're
Yeah.
termite proof, they're fire resistant, they're
Yeah.
completely recyclable. I mean, if you don't like it, you just melt the whole container down and make a fridge out of it or a car.
That's hilarious.
So I
That's
just like the
hilarious.
whole concept of them as a unit, as a Lego block, really, for
Yeah.
building.
Just such a cool concept. I mean, I really I thought those drawings were incredible when I saw them, and what a hobby you have.
Yeah,
That's
it's just that
wild.
kind of stuff. And one of my favorite is a bridge right now. It's like a swing bridge,
Yeah,
out of
yeah, I
containers.
saw that one as well. Actually, let me
It
pop back
looks
to
like a
that really quickly.
suspension bridge slash cable stay bridge, but it's
Yeah,
actually a
yeah, I
rotary one.
saw that one as well. Container-based bridges. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
nuts.
just for somewhere like, which is low grade, you wouldn't get any major shipping going underneath. Meant
Right.
for that. It's just,
Yeah.
but it looks like one thing, but then when it splits apart, I just like the visual kind of pun of that
Yeah, it's
thing.
really cool. Very cool. Very industrial looking, obviously.
And just filled the 20-foot container at the bottom has a motor in it, and it's just filled with like about 20 tons of ballast.
Right. Yeah, that's
So
cool.
pretty
Really
easy
cool.
and cheap.
Yeah, very, very cool. So yeah, like I said before, Sarah's going to include the link to this in our show notes so that everybody can
Yeah,
see it because I think it's worth looking at. It's pretty cool, and certainly the concert drawings, the are really cool. The renderings that you've done are really, really cool and worth taking a look at for people.
well, thank you. I mean, they were basically, because the papers, to my knowledge, none of the drawings of any of those rigs exist anymore.
Yeah.
So that was done from memory when I was building the rigs. That's why I stuck with stuff that I was on tour with, because I can remember them even
Right.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes
And
sense.
looking at photographs and the few photographs that do exist of someone, go, that's right, we did that like this. But I mean, it was just how we did things because none of it existed back then.
Yeah.
You had in the old pioneer days of lighting, if it didn't exist, you had to invent it yourself.
Well, I also read that Steve Harris saw some of your drawings and
Yep,
the bass player from Iron
yep,
Maiden, and he loved them and said, "Please do more."
yep. He did
Yeah,
exactly that.
that's
His
wild.
exact words were, bloody hell, mate, they're great. So I thought I took that as a plus. Another one one of the ones I'm working on right now as my sort of nighttime project is the Paul Simon Graceland tour rig,
Oh,
and
that's
also
cool.
the Phil Collins but seriously tour, which had a big carousel in it, which Jonathan Smeaton designed. But
Yeah.
it looked like carousel, and it opened up, and it just had VL2s and VL4s in it primarily, and a few park hands.
So
But that's
where
the one I'm
where do you
working
get
on
the
now.
information to draw these? Like, it's not from memory, is it?
Most of it is from just
Really?
memory, and yeah, there's hardly any paperwork kicking around on any of these rigs. So it's the odd photograph and just
That's
Yeah, I suppose it's
incredible.
just got kind of muscle memory built in my head. How many was it? A 5 footer and a 7 foot 6? And when you're dealing with pre-rig truss, I mean, I can't remember where the lamps, what lamp type, color the lamps were,
Yeah,
but I mean, the structure itself was relatively straightforward on a lot of those rigs, as far as memory how we did it.
that's really incredible. That's cool. So
Because a
how
lot of
long does
times,
it take, like, for you to go and do like that Iron Maiden one? Are we talking about weeks or?
yeah, that was the first big one that I did was the slavery tour, and I had to create a lot of the stuff from scratch, and there that took a couple of weeks, and
Yeah,
then just fine tune the renderings, get the angles and the lighting right in the renderings, and tweaking a
that's
little bit.
cool.
A lot of this
That's
kind of
cool.
stuff is the old 80-20 rule. 80% of the stuff takes 20% of the time, and the
Yeah,
remaining 20%, that's the
yeah,
detail, takes
yeah,
80%.
yeah. It's
For
true.
any drawings and renderings, that holds true today.
Are you engaging any AI yet to help you
No,
on these drawings? No, not at
no,
all. No interest.
no. I've got glasses. That's about it.
It's as far into technology as you're going on.
I'm I'm not a huge AI lover. I don't know. There's something I wouldn't say distasteful, but it's kind of close for the entertainment industry to consider AI.
Yeah,
We're back into Milli Vanilli ground again, lip syncing. If that's the way
sort
you're
of.
going to do it,
Yeah, sort of.
just put a
Yeah,
big sign of created with AI. If it wasn't a guy doing it with a pencil or a stylus on a Photoshop on a tablet or something,
yeah,
but if it's some machine, putting Donald Trump's face on the front of a train or something,
yeah.
okay, well, if AI did it, it's not art to
Well,
me.
so I'm pretty up on AI. And yesterday, I had Ola Melzig. Do you know Ola? He
From
does
Eurovision,
Eurovision. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So I had him on, and he's a trip. He's fun. And I always talk about AI in our intros. I because I know how most people in our industry feel about it. So a lot of it is just confirming your feelings, and some of it is to say, hey, you know, how about AI doesn't replace Dizzy, but AI makes Dizzy's job a little bit easier, not creating, stuff that's creative, but the things that are tedious, where you're creating a piece of truss that you need to be able
yeah,
to create the drawing. It can create the truss for you and make it easier,
yeah.
speed it up by a couple of hours. But anyways, so the intro or the bio that I read for Ola, our recording software that we use for this podcast, Riverside, has something in it called AI voice. And I said, okay, I'm going to try this thing and see what it does just to present to the listening audience, right? And so what I did is I copied and pasted the text from Ola's bio and then had it read it back for me. It blew my mind. So I have a cold right now, so my voice is raspy and shitty, and it used my cold voice and read Ola's bio. And I mean, even if you know me pretty well, you'd listen to it and go, yeah, you just read his bio. But it wasn't me. I just put the text in there and it read it. And so it's a bit scary
That's
how
what I
far it's
find.
gone.
Yeah, that's what I find
Yeah.
kind of distasteful about it.
Yeah,
It's
it
almost
is.
theft. I
Yeah.
mean, I know that who was it? Scarlett Johansson, I think she had her voice taken
Yeah.
for some movie
So,
clip or something like that, and she's
yeah,
suing them. Good
supposedly,
for her.
allegedly,
Yeah, but I mean,
she
your
thinks it
voice is
sounds
your
like her voice.
property. Just
Right.
like
But
if Da
there
Vinci
was an
does a
argument as to whether or not it was her voice, so
well,
like the whole story was basically they approached her to do an ad. They wanted her to
yeah,
do an ad based on what was that movie called that she did? Not Makina, but the other one where she was an AI robot or whatever, some
oh,
movie.
okay,
But anyways, they wanted her to do the voice. She was called Her, I think, in the movie. But anyways, they wanted her to do the voice and to basically insinuate that, hey, we're going to robots now or whatever.
yeah,
And she turned it down. And so then they did a similar ad, and she said it was using her voice, and they said it wasn't. And so who knows what the real truth is? It's so easy to do, though. I mean, to just get somebody on a phone call, copy their voice, and call them back with their own voice.
always
It's
just record it
insane.
off a movie. I mean, if the AI is supposed to, and
True.
it can get the
Yeah.
sort of tonal qualities of a voice from
Yeah.
like 5 minutes of talking on a
Yeah.
movie, it can work
Yeah.
out the tonality of how you would say the word cigarette or
Yeah.
train or
Yeah.
something. And it could figure that out. That
Yeah.
I find is we're
It's
on the
terrible.
we're on the Napster grade of rape and pillage, I think.
Worse though, because it's so dangerous what you can do with it. But just
Yep.
to finish my story from yesterday, so I was adamant when I sent this to Sarah to edit the podcast. I said it has to say this intro or this bio was recorded using AI.
Yeah.
And because I didn't want to do it so that it looked like I was being lazy or something or trying to trick people.
Right.
None of that. Like, I'm not going to go, I could easily have my sponsorship reading done by AI, but I'd rather sit there and record it myself because I owe at least that to them when they're sponsoring my podcast. But you're right. I mean, there's definitely a lot of danger to it. And, AI is like a gun. In the hands of a good person, it's going to save a lot of people,
Yep.
and be very a bad
Well,
person, it's going to kill you.
I liken it to. I go in the more pacifist side. I say I liken it to a screwdriver. You can build something with a screwdriver, or you can stab someone in the face with a screwdriver.
It's totally true, isn't it?
I mean,
It's
and
totally true.
it's got good intentions to be the right thing, but it's not going to get used. If you can't believe what you hear and see anymore, we are screwed.
But
I mean,
then you got to look at the positives. I'm always looking at the bright side here, Dizzy, but you look at the positives. Yeah. One of the things I just read a couple of days ago was that they created a magnet using AI that removed all rare earth materials from the magnet. And prior to that, you couldn't create a magnet without using rare earth materials. And so they basically took probably decades of research time and put it into like a day or a week or whatever it was, like a very short period of time. And AI did all of that research and figured out how to build this magnet without any of these rare earth materials. So if you take that kind of thing and you now look at cancer research, for example, or Alzheimer's research, some of these diseases that we've had for a long time and we're no closer to a cure to, I think AI is going to provide those cures.
Yep, but I think that's different from someone duplicating someone's voice.
Correct. Yeah,
and talent or face, or if you look at it, the voice and the face, in which case actors and ultimately musicians. How do you know if it's Metallica, if it's being created? I mean, there's the ABBA thing, the ABBA theatre in London.
Yeah.
I think is good because it's not being touted as this is the band. Everyone knows what they're going to watch. It's when you get stuff mainly on the flat screen, which you can't tell if it's real or if it's Memorex.
Well, audio, music as well. Music as well, because I've created songs on some of these AI apps. I could just go on and say, make me a heavy metal song about Dizzy Gosnell, who's like one of the godfathers of metal lighting from the 70s, and do it using a voice that sounds sort of like Ronnie James Dio. And 5 minutes later, I'll have a song just like that.
Intelligent. Well, what's the word? I can't even think of the word now. Not intelligence, but intellectual theft.
Yeah.
Where your thought is, or your face, or your voice, or even your style of doing something could be taken by someone else, or taken by a machine, and
I don't think that'll be allowed. I don't think those things will be allowed. I do believe there's regulation coming very, very quickly. And there's already some stuff there. Like one of my friends is a lawyer that protects people's likelihood. Like even if you use a Beyonce picture in one of your ads or something, he'll sue you for it and will win. He's won many of them.
But I mean, one of the things, I was talking with the drummer from a local band up the road here. He's been around for decades. I mean, he's played with all sorts of bands, jazz and blues and funk and all that kind of stuff. And he's saying, well, AI. You said, if you look at it, you said everyone's calling anything which is kind of smart or some degree of smartness AI. Does that mean that the sort of metronome that I used to have with the flashing light on it, just to start the drum, so I start the drum beat, is that artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
And everyone's calling everything artificial intelligence, and some of it is just program or an algorithm.
Well, and
Is it
then yeah, but
calculated?
you're right. You're right. And that's one of the problems right now is everyone is sort of
It's
trying to
sexy.
figure out what all of those words
It's got
mean and
AI.
stuff.
It's like, okay, it's got MSG. Sure, good. And
Yeah.
monosodium glutamate.
Well,
But in our
one of the
business, I find it kind of, I think it's dangerous for our business.
yeah.
And all sorts, set design, costume design, voices, the
Yeah.
actual show, end result itself, music for sure.
Yeah. But Disney, what if the line is basically AI supports artists. AI doesn't replace artists. AI supports drummers. AI supports graphic designers or people who are doing these CAD drawings or whatever. Like, for example, Richard Cadena, who I talk to quite often. I don't know if you know Richard, but very
Yeah,
smart
yeah, yeah,
guy. But
yeah, I know.
he doesn't use AI to do his work, but he uses AI because he uses a lot of different coding and stuff in what he does. And so
Right.
instead of him having to sit and do coding for days to create something, he'll have AI, he'll say, hey, I need you to create this JavaScript to do this or whatever. And it'll get done
That's
in a
basically a
half hour.
macro. I mean, Excel had that in
Sort of.
spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Macro. Just I want all the addresses to be like a capital for the first letter, and you just type it out, and you just go boom, and then
Well,
the address would have the capital for each first letter of the word. And
let me give you a
it's a
real
macro.
world example. So let's say you're doing a show and you're responsible for the budget, and you have a lighting programmer, and he's going to have to sit there and do tons of lines of code just to set this thing up to get prepared to program the show, right? If you could have AI do those lines of code, there's nothing creative about them. You've got a guy
Right.
that you're paying too much money to do a menial task, and now you've got AI that can do that menial task, and you don't have to pay this guy for 3 days of doing the coding, for example. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. That to me makes a lot of sense. You're not replacing the creativity of that programmer. You're not replacing his skill set or anything. You're taking the menial BS away from what he's doing and providing that to him as a sort of support, right? So
I think as far as that kind of stuff. I mean, could you do it with the sound guy then? I mean, front of house, just have a microphone at front of house and just have it automatically adjust
they
all the
kind of
knobs on
do
the
that, don't
desk.
they? Don't they kind of do that as for bass levels? Like,
Just I'm not a
or
hundred
we'll end up
percent.
with watered down shit.
And the other thing is that how smart is the AI going to be if the drummer's actually playing a little bit faster tonight, or the guitarist doubles his guitar solo? He does 8 bars instead of four for a solo.
Yeah.
Is all that? I mean, right now we still have to have somebody pushing the button. Crap, he's starting to busk now. Someone has to put the override switch on if you've got a
No,
scene.
I don't want to see AI controlling lighting during a show. No, 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 no. I
That's
don't
where they're
want to
going.
see any of that. And I don't
But
think
if
we'll
they
go
can,
there.
I don't
Uh,
know. I can see people if we get people on the front end, and I think it is a thin end of the wedge thing. If you get people on the programming end,
yeah.
then it's not going to take that long for accountants to go, "Ooh, well, if we're saving on this guy who's not quite as expensive as this guy, do
Yeah.
you think we can get him to run the show?"
Yeah, but for
And
the
it's been tried
reasons,
before with
including the
MIDI.
one you just said, like when somebody starts jamming or something, or they change the
Yep,
song, or they change the set list, or whatever.
yep,
I think AI is going to get smart enough to deal with that stuff pretty soon, but there's a
yep,
human creativity and there's a human feel involved in some of those things, and even mistakes. Like sometimes
yep,
human mistakes make a show better,
yep.
because it's different than it was last night. You could see the show 3 nights in a row and there's nuances to it, right?
Well,
And
my liking it of all of this stuff with rock and roll is that okay, if you want to go, would you go and see NASCAR or Formula One Grand Prix racing if it was all AI driven? If it was
no,
robots
hell
basically
no,
driving?
100% no.
Right,
That's a great example because they've been
exactly.
doing that, by the way. They've had
Oh,
driverless formula cars, and there was
yep.
massive crashes and stuff because when the tires slip a little bit or whatever, AI doesn't know how to fix that quite yet.
But
It'll
even the
learn. But
even the battle bots, they have a guy on a remote control, the battle robot things on
yeah,
like Discovery Channel or whatever.
yeah,
At least they got a guy controlling it on each
yeah,
machine, so
yeah.
it's you're not getting injured. But would you want to go and see AI NASCAR or AI Formula One? No,
Hell no. Not even
totally
a little bit, not
right.
even a tiny bit interested. And
And so
similar to
I think
music, I don't want to listen to AI. I mean, okay, so elevator music, if it was done by AI, sure, I don't care. Because to me,
they,
anyways, it's
yeah.
a exactly. That is so well said.
I think it was Ted Nugent. He wanted to buy the Muzak Corporation,
Yeah,
ZAK. He wanted to buy it so he could abolish it. And that was
that
one
is
of
hilarious.
the very few things that I actually concur with Ted Nugent on. But I mean, I thought it
That's
was a really noble
hilarious.
sentiment. But I
Buy it
mean,
and
okay,
kill it.
so symphony orchestra. Do you have a robot with a white stick at the front then? Because he's going to be 100% on the conducting beat every single
Maybe,
time.
maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. Again, we don't know where this is all going. What I do know is it's coming, and what's happening is as these AI systems become smarter and it reaches what they call AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is when basically it's sort of crossed a chasm, and it's
Yeah,
self-learning, self-programming, and it becomes smarter than humans.
yep.
That's when we've got a real issue, because what happens when
Yeah.
AI decides that humans are no longer necessary, as anymore?
Or it decides what medicine you want and how much you want it, but
Well, that's coming. I mean, that's coming for sure.
not
Hopefully
without.
it's not, hopefully it's not evil, but, uh,
Yeah, I mean, but you don't know if it's not evil. If it's anyway connected, it can be infiltrated.
true. Yeah. So that's the other thing.
So
It depends who's prompting these AI things, who's
yeah,
telling them what to do, who's telling them, are you a Democrat or a Republican?
yep.
Who's telling them, are you going to cater to the rich people or the poor people? Do we like Jews better or do we like Catholics better?
Or does the corporation win? The Sacklers,
Correct. Yeah.
because they got
Yeah.
more money
Correct.
and better lawyers than me or you can ever find.
You know
So
what? It's good to be old today.
oh
I
yeah,
think it's
I,
it's
I
better
wouldn't.
to be old right now. I don't want to
I
see how
don't
that movie ends.
be 20-year-olds right now. To be honest,
No,
I
no.
couldn't go
I
through it
mean,
again.
in one sense, I do, because it's such an exciting time, because this is like another massive change, but
Yeah,
it's a potentially scary change. Like, put AI in Putin's hands, like, have you seen they've been doing this thing recently, the military, where they're doing dog fights between, and these are simulated, but it's dog fights between jets flown by pilots and jets flown by AI pilots. And the AI pilots are winning every one. So now, and I talked about this yesterday, so sorry to the people who are hearing it twice, but now what happens when you've got wars fought with no human cost, at least on the battlefront, so I'm not losing pilots because I've got all AI pilots now. And so I'll fly them into any situation, sort of like really smart kamikaze pilots that aren't killing themselves. It's just they don't care if they do die, right?
well, or it'll be kind of like what's going
Very
on in the
different.
Middle East right now. It'll be the civilians that pay the price.
That's ultimately what's going to happen. Yeah, that's ultimately
And
what could happen. Anyways,
like rock and roll, it's going to be the audience that pays the price and seeing a mediocre thing because it hasn't got
this
that
is why I
spark.
don't think it's going to happen. I don't think people are going to accept AI music, like music without artists and personalities behind it and stuff. Like, I
And the
just don't see it.
mistakes. And
Yeah, I don't see it.
I
Mistakes
mean,
and
that's what it's all
yeah,
about. I mean, people go to car racing to basically watch a train wreck.
yeah.
Hopefully nobody gets hurt. But they want if there's no crashes, nobody will ever see it.
Well, it's all people. It's like people love Alonso, or they love Lewis
Yeah.
Hamilton, or they love, Max Verstappen or whatever.
Yep.
They don't just love watching cars go around in circles.
No.
They love everything about it. It's like a whole culture and a feeling, right? So you can't take that stuff away and then expect that, they're still going to love it just as much. I don't see it. I just don't
I
see
mean,
it.
I
But
can see AI having uses on safety. A lot of things, like for moving scenery, heavy bits of machinery, motors, and all that kind of stuff, and just general safety things. Because the awarenesses are much quicker than the
yeah,
human can ever do, and
yeah,
it's 360 in every direction,
yeah.
up and down and left and right, and that kind of stuff in touring. But when it
But
comes to it, it's the personal decision making that
but
is.
again, if you think of your job, Dizzy, like or like when you go into these drawings, for example, if you look at the really boring bits that you wish could just go away because they don't require any of your creative mind whatsoever, they're just tedious tasks. That's where I see AI being incredibly
No,
valuable and
I
functional.
don't, because every
Really?
from nope, absolutely not. From the
Hmm.
stage up, I mean, it's all decisions. Is it a 60 by 40 stage up? Yeah, we're playing in this place with narrow dashes, or it doesn't have dashes, and it's a basketball, not a hockey arena.
Yeah.
Everything from the ground up is a decision. Everything, and
Yeah,
the
but what if
drawings
you
are
those decisions and you tell it, okay, so the stage is going to be a 60 by 40, it's a basketball arena. We're
it's
doing
quicker to
this, we're
draw it.
doing this, we're doing this.
It's quicker to draw it
Mm,
because it's a
yeah,
one-off. So you're going to
yeah,
program a one-off. Just if I'm going to be doing drawings for one particular show, one tour, then it's not going to be
yeah,
quicker. I
yeah.
mean, I can
Well,
knock out a drawing of a 3D rig in an hour and a half. By the time I've coded everything and told it to do it, it'll be tomorrow.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
you're probably right. I just know that like in my own life, there are tedious tasks that I use
yeah,
for that are not cheating. It's not, it's just basically enabling me to repurpose that hour that I would have spent doing this thing on something else. And I go through it anyways and I fix all the mistakes and stuff. Cause that's the other thing. AI makes a lot of mistakes still. Like I've got one of my geezers of gear logos. The singer has three arms and nobody notices it, but he's holding a microphone with one and there's still two other arms. And it's like, okay,
there you
what's going
go.
on here?
Well, I think that's a good metaphor for where AI could go. We could start
It's
getting
true.
this real kind of
No,
weirdness
you're
going
right.
on.
Yeah, you're
But I
right.
think it yeah, it's once the art goes, the human part of art. If we've got humans entertaining humans with the possibility of failure or error or
Yeah,
brilliance, then that's what people will going to want to see a show, to
I
be
agree with you
inspired.
100%. 100%.
But it's
You know,
basically like going to see an automatic I mean, even automatic checkouts now, they're being rolled back. They're pulling back on them
yeah,
for a
because they
variety of
suck.
reasons.
Because they
Well,
suck.
so this
Yeah,
whole automation thing is, I mean, I find it fascinating. AI has been around for a long time,
yeah,
but it's only in various different forms. But now, it's in the last 2 years since COVID, really, it's
yeah,
become on this what new wonderkind that's going to solve all our problems. Then the software's gotten better, and the hardware, the chips and stuff have gotten better as well for
yeah,
the visuals on it.
yeah.
But it's going to have a place, certainly in my thing. There's
It's
no
not in your
creativity,
toolbox.
and I don't want to walk in a building that was designed 100% and not checked. If it was designed by AI,
It's going to happen either. Like I think it's AI is supporting humans, not replacing humans in most cases. So
yeah, and that's
there are
that's the
some
word
cases where that's not
most.
the case.
It's
Yeah.
the word most. When you
Yeah.
get people say, "Perhaps we can do away with that guy. We don't need an accountant now. We just got an AI. We don't need a designer. We don't need a,
Yeah.
a truck driver. So we have
Yeah.
automatic trucks. Well, where's the truck driver? I don't know. Have you called him? I don't know. We don't have a driver. It's an auto truck because we save some money. But where is the truck? I don't know. He's not answering the phone, or the battery died on the truck.
That's
We don't
so
know where it
funny.
is. I
That's
mean,
amazing. That's amazing. Hey, you're right. I mean, you're right. All of your concerns are accurate, but guess what? It's still coming. With or
yeah,
without
oh,
those
yeah.
concerns, it's still coming and it's coming fast and hard. So we got
As
to
long
be
as they
prepared for
put
it.
that created with AI at the bottom
I
as a
agree.
giant footnote, just like they put, Hallmark Channel or something, the bottom right of the screen,
Yeah.
there has a big thing there. This was created with AI, so people can
Well,
decide if they like it or not.
I mean, if even Google and stuff are already penalizing you for AI content. Like if you're writing blogs with AI, for example,
Yeah,
those blogs don't get any search traffic. Um, there's going to be some requirement on all kinds of creative things that say this was generated using AI. But there are some really funny uses too. Like, I don't know if you saw it, but I saw not that long ago, a few months ago, there was a debate between Trump and Biden, which is very timely. And it was completely done by AI, but it was so amazing. Like, go search for, AI Trump and Biden debate, and you'll laugh your ass off. I promise you, Dizzy, because it's just hilarious because they're calling each other names and cursing like crazy, and you geriatric old bastard, and like just back and forth bickering, and it's so funny. And I remember and they did it live. They basically did this thing live, this debate. And I was watching it and I said to my girlfriend, this is what the internet was created for. This right here is some of the best entertainment I've ever seen. So
That and cat videos, right?
yeah,
And can you imagine being the guy who invented one of the faster chips, whether it was the lead designer for Intel with the 486 and the 487 math code processors and all that stuff? And he didn't see his wife for years because they're in developing engineering. He said, I did all this crap so people could watch cat videos in real time.
It's so true.
It's so on their phone. It's like, wow, I lost my whole family life for this.
That is so funny.
I think I'm getting probably a bit cynical on a lot of this stuff, but I think
Dizzy. I don't detect that at all from you right now.
No, I think if you can't be bothered to do it, don't do it. That's my motto. If you want to, especially in the arts field, if you're like Leonardo da Vinci saying, okay, I'll do all the edges, and then AI can fill in the middle bits.
Unfortunately, this is what's coming, though. This is in movies. I mean, this is a whole nother conversation, but movies, when you look at some of the AI generated scenes and stuff right now, it's insane. And so, like, who is it? Tyler Perry was spending $800 million on a new movie studio, and he stopped. He completely stopped construction of it because of AI, because he just saw how good some of these AI things were that were coming out, and he said, I'm not doing it. I'm not investing this kind of money into a movie studio.
Some of those movies with like 40 explosions per minute, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I can't watch those things because they're just so. I mean, anything with The Rock in it. I'm sorry, The Rock, but
I agree.
Some capabilities of a 12-year-old man. It's just really not. It's the same story. Stupid. You've got in your contract you cannot lose any fights.
What's the little bald English guy? My girlfriend's in love with him.
We have to be more specific in that.
Jason Statham. She loves him. He's like her superhero, And his movies, everyone is exactly the same. They're boring as hell. He's like the little British version of The Rock.
And you ever notice they usually have about 15 gears in the gearbox because the camera goes
true. They
down,
just keep up shifting.
So you weren't in the top gear already, and the guy was right in your tail. What kind of moron are you?
When they have the handgun with about 100 bullets in the clip, it's
my
like
favorite
they
one
just keep shooting.
My favorite is when a diesel truck scrapes a brick wall and then it bursts into flames with a giant Hiroshima, and it's like, no,
that's what happens.
Diesel is not explosive.
That's hilarious.
But those kind of things I just can't watch. I just go, nah. And even if I'm 10, 20 minutes into a movie and I see that kind of shit, I go, no. And Spider-Man, where his body gravity is all wrong when he jumps down and he kind of he lands and floats down.
That's all that CGI stuff, right? And it's all just bullshit. I hate CGI. Again, AI is the same basic thing. It's just CGI on steroids,
Drum fills are going to be like that when you see I want no drum fill number 23, please.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Definitely right. So what's the rest of 24 look like for you? Crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say crazy, but it's very busy. And just a nice, good, healthy level of just keeping stuff chugging along and just wrapping around to the next year. And a lot of these acts are going to go out again next year, and it'll be back on the horse again in January.
Any plans to slow down?
Me, no.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to so many.
Retire. I'm 67 now, and I've got no interest in retiring at all.
Yeah. Good for you, man. Good for you. The thing is, everyone I know who retires at our age, your age, my age, I'm a little younger than you, but not that much. They die. Like they
Yeah,
retire and then they die 2 years later or something.
yeah,
And,
no. I
you know, if
enjoy
you
the
love your life,
challenges.
why not keep doing it?
Well, that's it. I mean, I enjoy the challenges, the mental gymnastics of making things fit
Yeah.
in a building. That it. I've been doing quite a lot of that this year with a few acts where
Yeah.
they've been carrying bigger systems than they've had before because
Yeah.
the ticket sales are going good and they're just a big push for them. But they're ending up playing in places that were booked last year. They're not quite as big as the system that they're carrying is. So
Yeah.
trying to
Well, and
make
you're
it
really good at
fit.
that. You're really good
I
at
enjoy it.
putting the nuts and bolts together, like making things work. You're very good at that.
Well,
Somebody
a
can
lot of
send
that
you a
was the
problem and
English.
you'll figure it out.
It was the English training of like you go out with an A rig, but you'd only see the A rig 3 times on a 12-day English tour because you'd be
Yeah.
playing at this place. Well, you can't get that up. So the B and
Yeah.
C rig was always in your back pocket,
Yeah.
and there's quite a few tours I did. And one I did with Saxon in '84. We went down to like an H rig, A, B,
Jesus.
C, all the way down to H, with different variants of the rig. But we got something going on,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed that because it's my basic motto for all of this rock and roll is do more than is expected of you, and that's
Yeah.
my whole MO. If somebody asks you to do this, then I'll do this and this. Like you take your car to the mechanic to get fixed, and he runs it through the car wash
Yeah. Yeah.
before
That's
he hands it
always
back
such
to you.
a happy
Yeah, you
surprise.
go. That's my level of my thing is do more than is expected of you, and
That's a,
that's
it's a
my
great
MO.
motto. That's a great
Yeah,
motto. And if you could teach that to the quote young kids today, they'd get pretty far. And I've always told, like, my son's 20 and he's a racing driver. And I've always told him, you want to get to the track first in the morning. You want to be there
yeah,
with the earliest mechanic that shows up and stay last. You
yeah.
want to be the first driver there and the last driver there, and you'll be remembered for a long time.
Well, I mean, that's what
And
lighting guys are good for because we're in
yeah,
at 7 in the morning and then we're doing the idiot check. And sometimes we'll pick up the sounds tails because they forgot to pick them up. And we'll just
yeah,
bring up, hey guys, we just
yeah,
got your tails for you. Do you want them?
yeah,
Crap, sorry about that. Because
yeah,
first in, last out. And
yeah,
there's a lot
yeah,
to that. Don't be late. Always wear a watch. I mean,
yeah.
to me, there was a few crew chiefs I had on tours with me way back when they didn't have watches. So I bought them like a $5 Casio. So
Yeah.
there you go. Said if you don't have a watch, you're absolutely useless because the production manager says we've got 10 minutes till lunch, dude. So what time is it now? And even the phone's no good. You can't have a phone in your
Right.
pocket most of the time when you're building a rig because it's
Yeah.
on the racks charging.
Yeah.
So just
Totally true.
timeliness. Yep, all of that stuff. Punctuality
Yeah.
is an absolute given, and the willingness to want to do it too.
Yeah.
If
These
you don't
are,
know how to do it, we'll teach you, but just be willing to do it.
well, and the young guys today and girls who have those kind of values and character,
Yep,
I think are going really far and will continue going really far. And it's not like
absolutely.
we're any better than young people. It's just that, it's been a shift in what's important in the world. And those who can remember back to the way that some of the older guys did it, I think are doing really, really well right now. And I know a
Yep.
lot of those people. So, well, Diz, thank you so much for doing this. I
Well, thank
appreciate
you,
it. It's
Marcel.
always so fun to catch up with you.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was a great
you,
one too. After 4 years,
yeah,
four and
yeah.
a half years.
Well, I'll check in again with you at some point, maybe in the next year or so, and we'll see what's changed. We'll see if
Yeah,
AI has taken over your life yet.
well, the chances of me being vertical still in 4 years are slim. So we'll just make it every 2 years.
I don't know. I think you're doing okay. All right, Dizzy.
Yeah,
Thanks
good.
so much.
All right. Thanks a lot, Marcel.
All right. Cheers.
Right.